Well, today guys, we are looking at another LED light by Hygger. So we've got the Hygger Aquarium Programmable LED Light, HG957, 72 watts, which is quite powerful, isn't it? 72 watts for an LED light does seem like quite a lot. What attracted me to this one is the fact that it's got this inbuilt timer. The rest of the Hygger lights I've reviewed so far all have separate timers sort of built into the wires, so this one should be quite interesting to look at. Right, well, I've not looked at this yet. It's been in my shed for quite a while actually, but here we are, we're looking at it now. It says open, pointing to the R, so I assume we start here, right? Ta-da! Yes, there is a light in there. I'll take it straight out. There's not much more in there. So for those of you who like instructions, we've got all of our different language, well, not all of the languages in the world, but the main ones, I suppose. Are they the main ones? I guess. And all the different features, different sizes that you can get this light in. I'm not going to run through it, but in here you can imagine there's how to set up the timer and stuff. Okay, so let's just have a look at the LED. Straight away we can see the inbuilt timer here. Now these aren't anything new to aquarium lights. Inbuilt timers, they've been around for ages, okay, but the Hygger lights, I've not seen, well, I've not had one, I don't own one that's got this feature, so that's why we're looking at this one today, because it's a bit different to what I've looked at before. So it's quite the chunky light. A lot of the other Hyggers are quite thin. Let me just get one, I'll grab one for you. So if you can see my other Hygger light, excuse the dirt on top of it, the dust, but it's quite thin, isn't it? Very, very thin LED. By comparison, this is pretty chunky. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. The case, I'm going to assume, is aluminium. There's only one way to test out whether or not it's aluminium. We will scratch. Yeah, so there's metal under there, and I imagine that'll be aluminium. So that's cool. Why did I test that? Well, it's because we've got a heat sink on the top here. That's what this sort of ruffled appearance is, and that allows heat to escape from the LED board upwards, right? Rather than going downwards into your aquarium, it'll escape via this, which means that your aquarium won't get heated up by the LEDs. And it has to be something like aluminium because that's good at getting rid of the heat. So that's why we test that. At the front we have got our LEDs. Classically, as I like to see from Hygger, excuse my condensation-y finger marks there, the LEDs are encased in a silicone, which gives them good water resistance. I haven't read anywhere saying that this LED is IP rated. Just treat it as splash resistant then. I'm not going to dunk it into any aquariums like I've done before. When they say they're IP68, I like to test it out, but it's not, as far as I can see. So don't drop it in your aquarium, and if you do, get it out as quickly as possible. But we've got a plastic splash shield on there, which is nicely attached actually. Does feel quite firmly in place. So we've got that to protect against splashes, and then any water ingress that does happen, we've got a nicely siliconed board which should hopefully stop any of your LEDs failing. So pretty cool. At the end we've got, oh, they're really stiff, aren't they? Oh, okay. We've got these, which are mounts. They obviously move in and out to allow you to mount it onto your aquarium. These wire mounts are pretty common on a lot of these lights. They just move in and out. These ones are a bit stiff, I would say. Not the easiest to use. It might just be this particular model that I've got. I'll check the other end. This one's a little bit smoother. So yeah, okay, they do the job. Not my favourite kind of mounting system, but like I said, pretty much every single light in this sort of price band has those kind of mounting options. So I guess the next thing we should do is actually plug it in, have a look at this timer, have a look at how these buttons work, and maybe see how it looks over an aquarium. So we can see the timer here, pretty self-explanatory. When we want it to come on, when we want it to turn off, and that's the moonlight. So the moonlight is basically blue light. Moonlight, yeah, so on and off, pretty simple. So you can manually turn it on by pressing this button here, and when you do, it allows you to also change the intensity of the light. I'll go through that over an aquarium. We can also change the colour of the light. So pretty easy, on and off, and you can manually change the light. Pretty good. So in terms of brightness, it looks about average, I'd say. We've got a nice mixture of different coloured LEDs. We've got white, we've got RGBs in the middle, and then we've got obviously blue, red and green separate LEDs. This should then give you the right Kelvin to grow plants. It does say 6,500 to 10,000 K, so we've got the ability here to grow plants. Let's put it over an aquarium and compare. So this is it over my 4-foot aquarium. You can see it's quite high up in the ether over there, so it's not directly over the tank, it's quite high up. I'd say about a foot away, and yeah, it's lighting it up quite nicely, isn't it? I would say it's an adequate light. This isn't my favourite Hygger light, I've got to say. The timer's quite nice, but I've just realised as I've unplugged it and replugged it in that it doesn't have a memory function. So if you do have a power cut, it's not going to start itself again, and it's going to have to be reset every single time, which is a little bit annoying. Especially I live in quite a rural area and I get power cuts fairly frequently, so that wouldn't work for me. But in terms of light output, it seems okay. What I'll do now is just measure the lux and we'll see what it is kicking out. Okay, so this is the lux from the light about a foot down, so this is where my lid is. We can see we're getting basically 8,000 lux, which is pretty bright, isn't it? And this is it at the bottom of the aquarium. Basically I've got the light at the top of the tank and I've got my lux meter at the bottom, so we're getting 4,600 lux, which is actually really bright. So that's actually impressively bright. I wasn't expecting that. Well, I was actually, because the power supply is massive, so yeah, it does output a lot of light. Now lux isn't a measure of power, so I can't tell you that the lux translates to plant growing power, but I can tell you it is pretty bright. This is a 4-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot tank, and it's illuminating it really quite nicely. Personally, I'd always run 2 LEDs like this on a tank, one at the front, one at the back. If I'm going to be growing plants, then you want maximum light coverage and all of that good stuff. Now, one thing I was going to show you is the fact that you can change the light colour. We've got red, blue, green, purple, and a lighter blue, and so on and so forth. It's a feature that's on a lot of these lights. I never use it, I'm not interested in it, but it's there should you wish it. So what do we think about this then? I think it's got some nice features, but it's also got a few flaws. The first one is the fact it's so chunky and fat. Now that wasn't a problem 5 years ago, but I've reviewed quite a lot of LED lights now, and a lot from Hygger in fact, and they're a lot slimmer in profile. I don't know if this one's chunky because of the power output. It's possible that it just needs a bit more space, but I've seen a lot thinner for the same sort of price point, and I would personally prefer it to be a little bit less chunky. The second problem for me personally, probably might not affect you if you've got more regular electricity supplies, is the fact that this doesn't have a memory function, or at least it didn't when I used it. So my shed's, say, 100 metres away from my actual house. If we get a power cut, it's quite stormy where I live, I've then got to come all the way to my shed and reset this. Whereas my other lights, for the majority, they're on little timers, and it doesn't matter if the power goes out because they remember either what they were set to before, or they're just on an analog timer and they come on and off. Having something like this doesn't work for me, but it might work for you. So this is a personal problem for me, not necessarily for you. This light has got to be one of the brightest ones I've reviewed so far. So Hygger are actually producing some incredibly bright LED lights. So that's a real big positive for this LED. So another plus point for this is the construction quality itself. It feels really solid. The actual casing feels snugly in place. It's not going to fall apart on you. I think it will last you a long time. It's a solid purchase. Obviously I've only tested it now, but based on the other Hygger lights I've got, none of them have failed. They're still running a year, 2 years down the line from when I first got them, so I can only assume this will follow in that track. So, you know, it is a solid LED light for its price point, and obviously the brightest I have got from that brand. So I think overall, good 7 out of 10. If you can look past how chunky it is and the fact that this hasn't got a memory function, then, you know, crack on, it's really quite nice. And it is nice having this on the light itself, rather, obviously these buttons are quite sensitive, rather than having it on the cable, which all the other LEDs from Hygger I've got have. So, you know, pros and cons to everything. Overall though, not too bad, is it? So, thanks for watching. If you've got to the end of the video, I appreciate it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Once again, thanks for watching and happy fish keeping.